Yes lads, welcome back to the channel, and today we are doing a Football Manager Q&A. This whole video is going to be centered around videos from the viewers yourselves. I've gone into my Discord, which by the way, the link is in the description if you want to join for any future videos, which we do like this. I've asked my Discord to send me questions about the future of Football Manager, the current state of Football Manager, any inspirations that I've had, anything to do with content creation around Football Manager. Like I said, boys, this video is just going to be all over the place. Loads of different questions. Let's get into it. We're actually going to start the video today with a question about the current game, and it comes in from Ramdog. Shout out Ramdog, a mod in my Twitch chat, what an absolute legend. Ramdog has said, for a lot of people, FM24 is very stale. Do you share the same opinion? And outside of retro databases, what can we do to enjoy FM again? Now, for me personally, I think the enjoyment from Football Manager comes from the storyline that you create inside your own head. I think signing certain players, trying out different systems, and creating a storyline for any team that you use is the key part of it. I think people get lost in the idea that Football Manager is all about starting, getting a bigger transfer budget, signing the best player, then winning the league, and then stopping. But I think the best thing you can do at the moment is create your own storylines. For example, I did a save recently that was inspired around Sir Alex Ferguson starting in Scotland. I had to wait until I got a job offered from the Premier League like Sir Alex did in real life and join. Then I had to rebuild that club to become the most successful team in England, winning trebles, winning this, winning that. This was a storyline that I created myself, and throughout the whole save when I was playing, I had this idea in my mind that I had a goal to reach. I had like little sub goals underneath that goal, and it keeps you interested. But of course as well, the retro databases are amazing. Shout out Mr. Teeny. Honestly, without him, a lot of us FM content creators would be in the mud. I think a good follow-up question next would be from Sean. Sean says, do you think FM25 will live up to the hype? Well, of course, Sean, there's no FM25, so there's no hype for it. Of course, Sean means FM26. I think the delay in all has added more hype for the new game. Of course, there's more anticipation. There's more people getting impatient for a new game and for a new database, etc., new graphics. I actually think the delay has helped build up the hype for the game. I think when we actually get some communication from Sports Interactive, which is something that I think they'd majorly need to improve on, by the way, I'm on this side of the boat. I think when we actually get some news and we get a bit of a roadmap and, you know, we get like 2 months of trailers and all this and that, I think the hype will return for FM26. I think, of course, at the moment, there's a lot of creators that are burnt out from Football Manager, you know, trying different games, doing new things, which is completely understandable. But I think when you start seeing all this news, all of the names that you know, the household Football Manager names will keep on and begin to reproduce content, and it'll just become an absolute sea of hype for the new game. So I'm very optimistic. The next question comes in from North Stand Robbins. If you could make a new mode in FM25, what would it be and why? I think that's a great question. I think for me, a mode that I would create, it's not necessarily a mode. I think the online play needs to be so much better. There's so many like different modes you could create. And an idea, for example, you could have literally a PvP mode, a 1v1 mode where you import your team from one of your saves and you play against someone else's team. FM matches it up on the amount of current ability in each team, kind of like FIFA does with divisions back in the day. Like the old school FIFA on Ultimate Team, you would match someone with a similar like star level to your Ultimate Team. If they could somehow do that, for example, if my team had a total current ability in the 18-man squad of 892, it would match me against someone that's between 850 and 950. Does that make sense? I think that could be a very fun feature. I think they've just got to make the game more online and more collaborative. Next up, we'll do a question about content creation. Actually, this is quite interesting. Joel has asked, what was it like making the jump to go full-time, and how did you manage when FM25 was delayed / cancelled? Now, making the jump to go full-time was a pretty straightforward decision for me, and of course, like all of us YouTubers say, people who stream, people who do any sort of content, it is not possible without you boys and the trust that I had in my community to support me through, you know, them initial months of going full time when you have a bit of a doubt in yourself and you think, oh, can I actually really do this? My community were absolutely amazing, always watching the streams, subscribing, watching the TikToks, gifting subs on Twitch, for example. People who do this keep me doing what I'm doing. So the jump for me into full time was a bit daunting because, you know, you're entering an unknown where your 7 days a week is going to become, you know, Big Robbo 14, you know, you're not no longer going to work and then coming home. You are full-time, you know, focusing on your brand and what you do. I think a lot of people are watching this as anyone that's trying to get into content creation or is part-time at the moment and, you know, edging towards being a full-time content creator. It's got to excite you. I think you've got to look at it as excitement rather than nerves. It's one of the best jobs in the world, if not the best job in the world. You can build a community of people who want to support you and talk to you every day. You can learn about people's lives. You can, you know, all of these things. It's absolutely amazing. And for the second part of the question, how did I manage when FM25 was delayed / cancelled? Just tried to get more creative. I think at the end of last year, to be honest, especially on Twitch, my November, December was probably my peak engagement and peak viewership. Like November, January, November, December, maybe even January as well. We did collabs with Aaron Hunt and Zims. We did some spin wheel saves. We did some fun stuff over Christmas. I think I actually handled it quite well. Of course, as time goes on, you can't do everything. You can't just keep on making new ideas for 2 years. It is difficult, but managing the delay for me isn't difficult. I still enjoy playing Football Manager. I still have a community that come and watch me pretty much every day, and I'm fortunate enough to be in that position. Like I said, it's not possible without you guys, but for me, I'm just still a player, a lad. I'm a player who plays Football Manager. I'm a creator, but I am someone who just enjoys playing the game, and I still enjoy playing it. So for me, the delay, of course, do I wish I knew FM was here? 100%, 1,000,000%. But am I just going to stop playing FM24 and just hate on it and just say all these negative things about it because of the delay? No, because FM24 is actually a good game, in my opinion. The next question comes from Mr. Tina. Who has more aura, a Mega Luke or a Mega Dad? And this is quite a simple answer. Without Obi-Wan, there'd be no Anakin Skywalker. There's your answer. Next question's coming from Fede. Why did you first get into FM? This is actually a really, really good question. When I was about 12 years old, my brother, who lived at home at the time, was a big Football Manager player. He tried to get me into the game, so this would have been when it was FM maybe 10, FM 11. And of course, me being young and wanting to see amazing graphics and how you are as a kid, obviously I didn't want to play the game. And then when I got to about 16, 17 years old, my friendship group started playing Football Manager, and I thought, I'm sure my brother back in the day used to play this game. And I looked and I was like, yeah, it's the same game. So I watched my friend, Skybet Bry. A lot of you know him from the streams. Shout out Skybet Bry. I used to watch him play it in a Discord channel, and I just thought, you know what, this looks so fun. And I just got into it. So FM 18, I think, was my first FM. So in terms of FMs, I'm actually still quite new to the game, but the main reason I got into it was the people that were around me. As soon as I got into FM, it's one of them things, boys, you boys know as viewers and players, when you first get into FM, you are hooked. You can't help being hooked. So this question comes in from Sol. This is quite a cool question about the current game. What is the one wonder kid that is underused but you absolutely love? Now, I don't know if I'd put him in underused, but I don't see a lot of people using Ruben van Bommel. He's the guy that starts at AZ Alkmaar. He's a 6'4" winger or striker, and he's one of them players who's got perfect physicals with height, and his technicals and mentals aren't as good as his physicals, but because his physicals are so good and how we know the FM match engine works, he is a beast. I think he's absolutely amazing on the game. I don't think enough people pay attention to him, so I'd go Ruben van Bommel. Next question's coming in from Boffin. He says, does it feel a little bit surreal interacting and talking to some of the largest FM content creators, e.g. Zealand, Work the Space, after watching them for so long? I mean, honestly, of course, just being a normal lad from Salford who's played FM, watched FM for years before he started creating content, when you have, and still to this day, when I have conversations with these people, whether it's Zealand, a Mega Luke, any name that you would, call a household FM name, meeting Tom FM the other week in Sutton, it is very, it is surreal, is a very good word, but at the same time as well, I try and tell myself in them situations that I am a presence in the FM community, and I've got my own community and I bring something to it too, so I try and have a bit of proudness about myself when speaking to them, if that makes sense. So it'd be because it could be very easy for me, because I am this type of person to kind of shadow away and kind of shy away from saying something because of the size of these people, and the word that is on the streets now is aura. The aura of these people. It's very easy to slip into that, but I think it's very important when you're a creator like myself to shoot your shot and talk to these people like you talk to anyone else. But yeah, I mean, working alongside these people, for example, doing the rebuilds on a Mega Luke's channel. I've been watching a Mega Luke for 3 years now, and the fact that my face is on his channel and my name is in his titles and things like that, honestly, it's still unbelievable when I go and look at the videos. Quatvelli asks, will the FMers rise? Rise, FMers, rise! We've got another question from Mr. Tina as well, lads. We've got, what's been the biggest challenge with content creation aside from the delay/cancellation? I think one of the biggest challenges with content creation is self-belief. I've entered into a world of Football Manager where I've primarily entered on Twitch, and of course I've entered when at a time FM, for example, since the cancellation, I know he said not to mention it, I apologise, but since then obviously it's not been something that's popular at all on Twitch. I think it's having self-belief in what you can bring to a community and what you can bring to people, and bringing that every day. And by that I mean, some days, content creators are human as well. We might have things going on in our personal lives, or genuinely, boys, as men or whatever, sometimes you wake up and you're having a bad day, and you're not in the best of mood, and you've always got to try and be that positive, the person people come to have a chat with, or have a laugh, or get involved in a save with you, or you're sort of their release, so you kind of have that onus on yourself to be upbeat and not not a negative part of their day. So I think self-belief, which then, like I say, ties in with, you know, your day-to-day moods and how you're feeling, is probably the biggest challenge when you're trying to be someone who's trying to be an upbeat, energetic, you know, bring that sort of side to Football Manager. We've got a question here from Scott, which I think is the most thoughtful question yet of the video. And by the way, if you've made it this far into the video, I appreciate you boys who watch all the way through this videos. And if you're new here and if you've made it this far, you're clearly enjoying the content as well. So why don't you leave a like, and how about you subscribe? Oh, I nearly got that right. How about you subscribe as well? I think we'll be near 12k subscribers when this video comes out, so let's try and get to 12k off the back of this video. But the question from Scott reads, beyond the typical wonderkid signings and tactical setups, what's a less talked about, deeper management principle or decision in Football Manager that you believe has a big impact on long-term save success? Honestly, what a question. What a question. I actually think one of the biggest things in Football Manager that is underrated, which I've now made a part of like my search filters when looking for players, for example, is the personality of players. I think the personality of the players that you have in your team is very, very important. If you have, you know, more model citizens, more determined players, more resolute, these players with these personality types, your team performs better. You know, you get these late winners in games, you get these consistent results, you get all of that. Now, of course, your tactics and your signings and everything, you know, Football Manager is a large pie. There's, you know, a lot of slices that are made up of a lot of different aspects that lead to you being successful in a save, whether that's promotion, whether it's not getting relegated, etc. But I do genuinely think one of the biggest underrated things is personalities. I think personalities are so slept on, especially with youngsters, with wonderkids, you know, wonderkids with determined personalities and this, that, the other, that are positive personalities always perform better as well. So yeah, personalities, Scott. Next up, boys, we've got two questions from DLF. We've got any positional roles you would like to see added and how could they improve international saves? Now, I know international football is being taken out of the next FM. I think I'm right in saying that, but if I'm not, because I could be wrong, I think international football, they just need to make it completely different graphically. They need to make it a different experience to a normal save. It doesn't feel like you are managing your national team when you are managing your national teams. That makes sense. Like, for example, let's take back in the day, do you remember the FIFA World Cup mode when you went onto it and it was a completely different separate mode to Ultimate Team, but it was an Ultimate Team? I think they should do that with international football and FM, make it graphically different, maybe have different layouts, you know, have flags all over the place, etc. That's an idea I've got for it. And he also says any positional roles you would like to see added. Now, for me, in Football Manager, I don't think there is a role for defensive midfielders that works when they are more technical. So let me use a recent example. Vitinha in the Champions League final played in like a, you would call it like a deep line playmaker role in that 4-3-3. And I don't think in FM having like a 5'8" technical deep line playmaker works. I don't know what you boys think of this, but in my opinion, a ball winning midfielder, defensive midfielder support, halfbacks, anchors, these like the destroyer types work better as a DM. But I think, you know, smaller, less physical DMs need a role within Football Manager, but I don't know what you'd call it. Like the way Vitinha played for PSG in that Champions League final against Inter, floating around from the DM position, going left and right, picking up the ball, dropping into pockets. I don't think there's a role for that on Football Manager. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe there's a way to get that working, but me personally, I haven't managed to get that working this year. So in the next FM, I would love to see that added. Question from Sean that's more to do with content creation. Sean says, who inspired you to do what you do? Now, of course, a big inspiration for me, and if you've been a long-term follower of my my content, of course, Angry Ginge 13, the guy who, you know, I grew up with, gone on to do absolutely amazing things that weren't even, you couldn't even vision when we were in school together, and things like this. To watch him go play at Wembley, to watch him go to Qatar, to watch him collab with pretty much everyone that we watched growing up is just absolutely unbelievable. So seeing what he did and seeing his work ethic and what he put in to content creation inspired me to start. In terms of Football Manager content creation inspiration, I would probably say a Mega Luke. I think a Mega Luke, like I said, a Mega Luke and his dad, the personality they have on the videos, the storylines they create, really inspired me to kind of go down that route of creating my own storylines with my own content, and that sort of ideology, if that's the word that I have, around what I try and do with FM comes a lot from a Mega Luke and a Mega Dad. I think there's a lot of other amazing creators in the space as well. There's so many creative, also Football Manager creators like True. True makes amazing Football Manager content, different to what you'd usually see. And I think these sort of creators as well, when I see their videos in the past or even now, you know, it really does show that with Football Manager you can create whatever you want. You don't have to just go down the generic route of let's plays or rebuilds. Of course I do rebuilds, and this is not hating on anyone who does let's plays, because it's definitely a game for it. But I think as well what it showed me is that you can do things with Football Manager that you could do with any other game. The way I like to put it across is that the game doesn't need to be so serious. You know, you can make Ronaldo a goalkeeper, you can do this, you can do that, whatever you want to do, you can do it. And I think the creators like Crew give me another side of inspiration inspiration, True. Give me another side of inspiration where you can go and do them things. Sam844 says, who is the worst wonder kid you have used that everyone hyped but you just stank when playing for you? This is the easiest question I will answer all day, and I'm going to have to give two. The first one was Endrick on like FM 21 and 22. He was awful, and Marcus Leonardo for the foreseeable future. And also, there's a reason why Marcus Leonardo's playing Saudi League football at 23 years old. The proof is in the pudding. Got another question from Boffin coming in. Do you feel it is necessary to do variety streaming in order to escape the FM bubble? Now, personally, I of course would love to do more IRL things. I would love to experience more things and be involved in a lot more things. From a content creation side of view, I just genuinely do love Football Manager. I absolutely love playing the game. I love doing all different types of saves. I love interacting with people, seeing what other people have do, looking at other people's regens, tactics, discussing roles, all the things that come with the game I do just truly love. And I think it is now more of a modern thing where streamers, YouTubers, and the biggest names are becoming more, TV based, I would say, like doing things in real life and doing like game show type things like the Sidemen channel and just things like that. But I just genuinely am a lad who loves Football Manager. Of course, in the future, I'd never rule myself out from doing things in real life. Like, for example, I would love to do in real life videos with creators. I would love to do a football video with a Mega Luke and a Mega Dad. But I think what you've described as the FM bubble is a good terminology for it, because I think a lot of people in FM do strictly just do FM. But for example, I would love to do a Minecraft world with Zealand, Dr. Benji, Work the Space, Zims, a Mega Luke and Mega Dad, all these people. I would love to do things like that. I just don't think there's much of a thing for it at the moment in the FM community. But in future, if there was any opportunities to do things with other creators or play other games, of course I would. I just genuinely do love playing FM. That's why I've based my content around FM. It's the game that I played the most before even streaming or doing content creation. So for me, I've just monetized what I did as a hobby, if that makes sense. Next question is coming in from Mr. Teeny. Again, these are the last two questions, by the way, boys. So second to last, the penultimate question. Mr. Teeny asks, what are your thoughts on the Viewer League as a concept and how it went? Now, for me, I do truly believe that the Viewer League concept is one of the best ideas I've come up with to do with FM. I do believe there is still room for it, and on this current FM, I will be restarting it. I think the problem with the Viewers League was allowing people who were new to the channel, and not that it's a guarantee, but people who were unreliable to come back were involved. I think there was a lot of people who signed up just to sign up, get the name in a team, and then never came back and watched. I think the whole Viewer League concept revolves around the chat and the people being involved with it in the chat being active. So for example, if there's 120 players in the Viewer League, more than ideally you would want at least 100 people who are part of the Viewer League in every stream you do for the Viewer League. You would want like 8 or 9 players from every team, whereas with this one, we ended up having, I'd say, about 40% of people or 50% of people involved in the teams in the streams regular, but then the other 50% weren't turning up to the streams, which I've also said on stream, nobody's obliged to ever come watch my stream. If people are doing things, I understand that there's real life outside of Football Manager, but I think the thing is there's just too many people that weren't involved. So the way that I'd probably do it in future is that I'd do 2 or 3 month subs can enter. You've got to be a sub for at least 2 or 3 months and then get it going, and maybe do less teams in the league so there's less spaces for people, so you can also pick the people who are more reliable. Next question coming from Josh, which is about the future of Football Manager. What is your FM26 wish list? Now, I think it'd be very easy to give a generic answer here, which a lot of people give, which is about the graphics, the match engine, things becoming better in terms of that. Of course, as a creator and a player, I want that. But if I was to have one wish for FM26, it would be for the game to become more playable for people who haven't played the game before. I think there's a lot of people that look at Football Manager and look how it looks, which of course ties into graphics, but look at, the way the game is played, and they view it as something that is boring to them, or they view it as something that is too hard to get into. I think the game needs to become more, I don't know what the exact word is, but maybe accessible. Maybe accessible is not actually the right word. What I'm trying to say is that I think people need to feel more inclined that they should be getting onto the game. For example, people should not be playing FIFA career mode over Football Manager. Football Manager should be the best football career mode simulation game you can play. And I think it is heavily involved with when new people come over to the game that it is so daunting and there's so much going on, and there's not really any help when you first come onto the game unless you watch tutorials. I think it just gets a bit too much for people, and people just think, I can't even understand this at all, So I think they really need to work on getting people into the game. Football Manager at this point now has loyal players. Of course it has loyal players. I think their main issue is getting new players in and new players to stick with the game and play it year round. So my wish list would be for that to happen, because then of course the more people you have playing the game, the more people you have viewing the game, everybody wins. Now boys, this is the final question of the video, and who else would it be than Maxwell? Hi all, Maxwell here. I'm writing this question/query to Big Robo 14 today in order to receive answers. That is how a question works, my mate. Does FM25 getting cancelled have its perks? It's a question many have been asking. Will this make the FM26 hype better? Will this game create future careers? That's all from me, but just have a think. Yours sincerely, Maxwell. 111111111. Now, of course, we've already mentioned the hype before. Someone already asked a similar question to that. I do think it makes the hype 10 times bigger, of course. Does FM25 getting cancelled have its perks? Yes, it does. For people who are wanting to get into Football Manager content creation like myself and grow a community, people are now more than ever looking for new people to watch on Football Manager. You know, this is nothing against the boys that make Football Manager content all year round, but for example, if you've watched the same person make content for 2 years and you see someone else make content. Maxwell also asks, does FM25 getting cancelled have its perks? I think for the people that are trying to get into Football Manager content creation, it does. This is no offense to the people that have been making Football Manager content for a long time now, but the people who've been making videos for 2 years, for example, if you're a viewer of that person and you see somebody new making content, you might think, oh, I've not watched his videos before, let me check him out. Whereas in a usual Football Manager sense, you know, when the new Football Manager comes out, all of your biggest creators, your Zealands, Tom FM, Benji, Luke, Work the Space, Clates, all these people, you know, they have got the loyalty of viewers. The viewers are going to watch them and what they have to say first. Whereas now, people probably now more than ever are looking for new opinions, new faces, new styles to videos. So in my opinion, when Football Manager got cancelled, if you were someone who was a smaller creator within Football Manager, it could only benefit you. You know, it actually really detriments the boys that have been doing it all year round and have the bigger channels. So that's how I've liked to view it as well. Of course, if I view it that way, it's a positive way of viewing it. And this kind of cues into his final question within his question, will this game create future careers? I think with the size that FM is going to end up, with all of the new match engine stuff they're doing, with the huge investment that they have made, the game will become the biggest football management career game. And I think within everybody who plays football games, whether it's FIFA or whatever, I think everybody at some point in their life who is into football or played football games has done a career mode, whether it was a FIFA career mode, something on PES like a My Legend or whatever it's called. I think all football fans like the idea of becoming a manager themselves and managing a team. I don't think there's anybody in the world who plays football games that wouldn't want to do that. Football Manager have just got to make it possible for people to look at it and think, I need to play that, kind of tying into the last question. So where I'm going with this, with will it make future careers? Of course it will. The viewership is going to go bigger, the amount of people watching will go bigger, the subscribers go bigger, the want to play the game will go bigger, the amount of things you can do on the game will go bigger. It just leads for more opportunities in content for everyone. So yeah, 100%. I think within the next 2 years you will see Football Manager have a massive rise on YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, you know, all of these platforms. I think it is going to skyrocket. But lads, that is the end of the Q&A. I hope you boys enjoyed this video. Of course, this is something completely new to what I've done before. It's been nice to actually see the questions that people within my community have been asking. I think I'll do one of these again within a month or 2 months, or maybe when we hear some Football Manager news. Thank you to everyone as well who I've read out today, who actually submitted the questions. Without you boys, of course, there wouldn't be a video. And like I said, it's been so good to hear your opinions. If you boys want to be involved in a video that's similar to this next time when I do something like this, like I said at the start of the video, my Discord invite link is in the description. This is where I ask the questions, or if I'm ever doing a video that involves viewers, this is where I take all of the, you know, the questions or the screenshots from. So like I said, if you boys want to be involved in the next video, go down to the Discord. Also boys, as well, if you've made it this far into the video and you are new, like I've already said, please subscribe. We are nearly aiming for 12k subscribers. Also, if you enjoy the YouTube content and you are someone who primarily just watches my YouTube videos, I also do stream on Twitch every day, and I also have a Patreon page where you can access all my tactics and everything that revolves around Big Robbo. But finally boys, thank you for watching the video. I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.